Welcome back to the channel. I figured I'd do a video for you guys on my sauna that I built down in my basement of my house. It's not 100% done, but you could say it's probably 99% done. The only thing I had left was more plywood on these outer walls. I'll show you the dressing room. Everything in here I did myself, including the wiring, the plumbing, all that stuff. The whole inside of the dressing room, we'll get started with explaining that, is the boards that you see on the outside of the walls in here. It's actually pine boards, which is fine for the dressing room. I actually treated them with Thompson's water seal just to protect them against steam. And I made this sweet little shelf here for waters, towels, and all that stuff. And before I put this thing in here, it's actually just, well, an open basement like you see here, just like that. There was no ceiling, no nothing. And it's a concrete slab, obviously. And there's only one drain inside the steam room inside there. So I didn't want to core a hole in my slab to put a drain for the sink. So what I did was I actually put the pipe for the drain in the vanity sink, and it goes through this little chase right here and it actually drains into the steam room where the shower is. And the reason for this funny looking chase here that I built out of the pine boards and stuff is because the ductwork from my master bedroom actually runs up through there and goes up through the floor. It took up a lot of space, so I mean it didn't bother me and it looks fine. And this window is already here. It's actually one of those old metal windows because the house was built in '78. So it was nice that I updated the window and everything. So I had to frame all the walls and stuff, make it work. But this whole wall here, everything here is pine. You could do cedar, but I mean you don't really have to in the dressing room because not much steam comes in here. Besides, I put a bath fan in. Whatever steam does come out here, it ain't gonna stick around long. But this here is actually cedar, this trim out that I did on the door. I built that whole door, everything's all homemade. And the baseboard is actually red cedar, and so is, you know, the rest of that stuff, all the trim. And this is my bench, just for like the dressing room bench. I made it out of leftover scrap from when I did these pine walls in here. But here's the steam room. And let me prop this door open. Yeah, this is my homemade ingenuity of propping a door open. It works for now. So everything you see in here for as far as wood is actually all cedar, red cedar. The ceiling, the walls, the whole bench, all this is made out of cedar. I did tile 4 foot up the walls just because the shower is going to be in here, obviously. And that light right there, it's not an explosion proof light, but it's actually just an exterior light that you can get at Lowe's. I think they're like 12 bucks and it works fine. It's LED. It comes with rubber gaskets. As long as you put all those in there, it'll work out good for you. It ain't gonna go nowhere or explode on you. I mean, I hope not anyway. But I know a lot of guys that use them haven't had any problems with them. That drain I was talking about, that's the only one that's in here because there was a slop sink in here. I took it out, and this whole wall was in here. Obviously, it was just one big room. It was all part of the basement. And that vanity sink drain actually drains out right there out of the wall. And I bought a thermometer, and I actually blew that thing up my first night using this thing a few months ago because I had it up to 215 degrees and the thing popped on me. So it don't work no more. But it's just a cheaper one I bought. And here's my stove. I'd like to do a video separately on the stove so I can explain, you know, what the right stove is and everything, who makes a good one. Me and my family were descendants of Finland, so that's why we say sauna and not sauna, because sauna is the actual right pronunciation for it. But if you ever do put one of these saunas in your basement or wherever, make sure that you do a concrete foundation on the bottom of your walls, especially in your steam room, because what happens is the moisture from the water being on the floor will actually crawl up inside this your woodwork here. So you want concrete at least like about 8 inches off the floor, then do your wood. Do a pressure treated green plate on top of that little foundation that you do. You don't have to worry about wood rot. And then, but I should have made a video to show when I was building this thing, but I wasn't doing YouTube videos then. But behind these walls, there's actually like a 1/2 inch gap. So this whole sauna has a 1/2 inch gap behind these walls all the way around. And the reason for that is you want your sauna to be able to breathe all the cedar wood. You don't want to have direct moisture on this and then directly on the walls behind it, because it'll make it rot way faster. I mean, this thing here is pretty much guaranteed never to rot. So basically what I did, when I framed my walls and I insulated it, I did 6 mil poly over the fiberglass insulation. Then I put 1x strapping over my studs. Then I laid this over top of that strapping to get that 1/2 inch gap. And then right here, I see a lot of guys on YouTube and stuff building these saunas. And what they'll do is they'll actually stick these stoves right against the wood wall here, and that's pretty good fire hazard. You should never do that. And what you want to do is have a heat shield that comes up to get the heat away from the wall. This here is just a piece of drip edge that I used. It works pretty good because that wood right there never even gets warm to the touch. But this stove, it definitely does a good job on. I ordered it directly from Finland. I think I paid $1,500 for this thing. But I'll do a separate video on just the stove, how to run it, the controls, what size you should get. But more on the bench. The bench, it's really only a 2-person sauna, because right now it's just me and my wife. We don't have any kids or anything yet. And I mean, very rarely do people come over and use it. But I'll show you about the size of the bench and stuff, the dimensions. Hang on a sec. So I'm 5'10", and this is plenty of room. And whenever you put water on the stove, naturally the steam wraps around this room like this. So the hottest section in the sauna would be right against this wall. But I mean, I'm always the one putting water on the stove when it's me and my wife, so I'll sit here putting water on it. She's just about half dead, being cooked alive. So most of the time she sits on the bottom bench here, telling me to stop putting water on there. But you know, I hope she doesn't decide to stop saunaing, because I almost kill her, but whatever. Now, as far as the concrete floor, what I did is I just used regular bagcrete to get it to slope towards that floor drain over there. And I just kind of guessed and used the level whenever I was leveling this stuff out. And nothing went wrong, it all flows properly. And to keep the water from penetrating the concrete, what I did was I bought white epoxy paint, and I did about 3 coats on this slab in here. And it keeps the water on top of the concrete and just skids it right into the drain, so you don't have to worry about moisture sitting inside here. Because your main enemy with a sauna is when you shut this thing down for the night and you have moisture that just gets trapped inside here and it can't escape. So that's one thing you want to avoid. So if your sauna has no vents or anything anywhere in it, what you want to do is make sure you keep that door wide open when you're done using it for the night, because it's fine. The sauna is designed to have steam inside of it, like high concentrations and moisture all in one whack. But when you shut it down for the night and you're done with it for like the rest of the week, you do not want that moisture to sit inside here, because that's what will cause rot and cause the whole thing to basically fall apart. So what I did with my sauna, because you want fresh air coming in, even when you're running the thing, you don't want just the regular steamed air, you want fresh air coming in. When I built my door, I left this about 2-inch gap right here, and this fresh air actually feeds this stove. And I know the stove's electric, I don't mean it's feeding a fire or anything, but it's basically keeping fresh oxygen coming in and hitting that thing. And then whenever you throw steam on it, it creates convectional force, so it sucks fresh air in from underneath that door, comes up through the stove, and then turns into steam when you're putting water on it. It's a pretty good system, and you want to keep that in mind when you're building one of these. So if you don't have the option of the door being right next to your stove, what you can do is you can actually cut a hole in your wall and put like an HVAC vent or a register vent right underneath your stove there, and that's what will happen. You'll get that convectional force. When you put steam on there, it's going to create suction, and your stove's going to naturally suck air from outside you're gonna have fresh oxygen coming up. And I see a lot of guys on the internet, YouTube and stuff, building saunas and have no fresh air. And then about a year later, they have another video and they're like, hey, my sauna's rotting. What did I do wrong? And the only thing I could tell them is you don't have enough fresh air coming in feeding that thing. So more on the dressing room a little bit. I forgot to mention, when I did these can lights, I actually went with LED, and they're actually outdoor LED can lights because the steam coming out of there, I didn't want it going directly inside that can light up there and ruining the thing. So if you do LED, you're perfectly fine. So the steam room door, the hinges that I use, they're actually made for a gate. And there's 3 of them on there. They're made, when I say gate, they're made for, like, if you go in somebody's backyard that lives in a subdivision or something, you'll see them on, you know, their wooden gate. And the reason I went with them is because they're epoxy coated and they'll never rust or anything. Well, nothing will go wrong with them, basically. And up underneath here, you just stick an Allen wrench up under there and you can adjust the tension that they have on them. I think those ones there are set about 8 to 10 pounds, I'm not sure. So that's a lot of force on. I mean, it works great. You can see the thing shuts on its own. And it didn't come out too bad for a completely homemade door. So the total cost of the sauna to build was about $4,700, and it would have been probably about, I'd say, $7,000 if I would have done red cedar throughout the whole dressing room. But I saved a lot of money by doing pine boards, and as long as you treat them and they're obviously in the dressing room and not the steam room, you're perfectly fine. It's not going to hurt anything. They're not going to rot or warp. So you're all set there. So saunas, they're wonderful to have. They can cure you of a head cold, everything, and that's why, I mean, in our community and stuff, people at our church, everybody has a sauna. It's tradition of ours that Friday nights or Saturday nights, a lot of people will gather at other houses that have saunas, and it's just like a big family event for us. We'll have like dinner, or people will bake breads and stuff, and everybody gets together in the community, and it's just sauna night, so a great thing to us.